So give me 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes, we will be out of here unless you ask so many questions. That does not mean that don't ask questions, ask me. All right? Good. Now, the efficient nutrient and absorption and welfare and health of poultry and also pigs. This is generally key in optimal production and performance of the animals. So the nutrient absorption and the health and also the welfare of the animal is very important in optimal production, which is ultimately the performance. But this function is bestowed on the gut. Nutrient absorption is bestowed on the gut. How does it go together? We like us going together. Now, a good gut health, it starts with at the birth. When the chick that Ria talks about does 42 grams comes to the farm, the issue of gut health starts there. And so he says, if it doesn't start well, it won't end well. That's why the short distance runners, they make sure they are really stepping on the springs so that they can start very well. So if it doesn't start well, it will definitely not end well. Now when gut health is compromised, that means it is not starting well. Digestion and nutrient absorption gets affected. And this affects feed conversion, leading to economic losses and greater susceptibility to diseases. Now, the farmers that you service are demanding efficiency. Then,
sorry for interruption.
yes,
That car is not legible.
it's not legible. Okay. It's only this slide that has that. It's only this slide that has that, then the other ones are okay. Sorry for that. So the farmers require efficiency, and this highlights the need of a better understanding of gut function, the health, and also how to maintain the healthy gut for better performance. And therefore the aim of this presentation is to explore the area of gut health and how it affects optimal poultry performance and how to maintain that very gut healthy for optimal production. Now, what does the gut consist of? The gut of a poultry, I'll use that for example. And it's not eligible again because that's a picture which I pasted there. But I will not go so much into those details, but I just walk through the various parts of the gut. So when the feed is consumed by the chicken, first of all it goes to the crop, and there's a bit of fermentation that occurs there. And after that it flows down through the proventriculus, and there's a release of some digestive juices that also contains enzymes. And then it goes to the gizzard, where there's a mechanical grinding, like the portion meat, to grind them into smaller pieces, opening them up to prepare them for digestion and also for the working of the enzymes in the lower part of the intestines. Then it flows down to small intestines, that's duodenum, jejunum, and also part of ileum, and that's where digestion and also absorption takes place. And then you go down to the large intestines, where also some digestion takes place, and also some absorption takes place there. But that area is a place where a lot of microbes reside, because it has got kind of a neutral, kind of basic or pH. So most of microbes, enterobacteria, live in that area. And then this feed, once absorption is done, the fishes are then released out through the vent. Now, who are the people who live in this gut? Who are the normal inhabitants of this gut? They are made of what we call a community of microorganisms. So within that gut, there are people who live there, they're called a community of microorganisms. And that community, there are various names that they're given. They're also known as friendly bacteria, also gut flora, gut microbiota, or gut microbiome. Those are names that use interchangeably to refer to the community of microorganisms that live in the gut. Now, the main people that form this community are the bacteria, the fungi, the protozoa, and the viruses. So these are the people that when you pick any component or parts of the materials in the gut, you might isolate them from that place. They form a community and they live in a very harmonious manner, where each keep to their space and each does their function. I like using, for some time now, I think 1 week or so, I've been using the example of Northeastern and the presence of Al-Shabaab, and also example of the town of Nairobi, that has got so many nationalities, so many tribes, but people live harmoniously. But if an invader comes in and overpowers the people in Nairobi, like Al-Shabaab, then there will be no peace. Doctor will not go to work because he's afraid. He'll be global by the Al-Shabaab. Simon will not go to the factory because he's afraid. And this coexistence need to be optimal and in a good way in the gut. What's the role of this microbiota, this community, these people that are present there? Each one has got their own role, but the microbiota has got a role to play. One is that they protect the gut. They offer a protection unto the gut. And how do they do that? They do that by doing what we call competitive exclusion. So what they do, they attach to the gut wall, and then they occupy all the attachment sites, and they prevent any microorganism that would want to attach to that place. So exclude them selectively. And then they dominate the attachment sites, as I said. And what happens when they do that? They inhibit the growth of the harmful microorganisms. So that gives the protection to the gut. Again, how do they again protect the gut? They also do it by secreting some kind of materials which are antimicrobial compounds. They secrete antimicrobial compounds. The antimicrobial compounds are the ones that work against microbials. They either inhibit growth of microbials or they kill them. Such compounds are like volatile fatty acids. They have got antimicrobial effect, and also organic acids. They do have got antimicrobial effect. I'll explain that one later. And all that lead to inhibit the growth and harmful microorganisms. Now, the other function of this role of gut microbiota is also to modulate the immune system and also develop the immune system for the younger birds in the early stages. How do they do this? One is that they activate macrophages. Now, macrophages are cells that detect danger, harmful microorganisms. They detect them. So they activate this soldier. I call them soldiers. So it's like the drilling. The drilling is like do the drilling of people, the soldiers in the army. The soldiers do not fight like the ones in Tanzania. They do not know how to fight very well because they have never fought anywhere. So what they do normally is give them a drill. They are scared that they are being scared. They are told something is happening. That's not real, so they respond to that to make them be alert. So that is the activation of the macrophages. They make the body to be alert to any attack that could be coming their way. And at the end of it, it triggers an immune modulation that gives the animal a high immunity and alertness. The other one is fermentation or digestion. Ria was saying that fiber is a source of energy, but it must be broken down and converted. So through fermentation, this microbiota has fermentation like a fiber, and that releases more extra nutrients. So the function, bottom line, is that at the end of this, the microbiota assist in inhibiting growth from harmful microorganisms, support gut barrier function, and trigger immune modulation and release extra nutrients. That is in a normal environment. In a normal situation, this happens. But what happens when something else happens? When the disruptors comes in, the Al-Shabaab invades a place, then what happens? So who are these disruptors of that normal function of the gut? Who are these that are going to disrupt this normal function? So the source of the disruptions come from pathogenic microorganisms. Pathogenic microorganisms that invade the gut. They disrupt that gut function. The protozoa, the virus, the bacteria, and they enter through water, feeds, or the environment. This also includes water, environment, and also the feeds. We'll talk about mycotoxins later down there. So those are the ones that really cause the disruption in the gut and interfere the normal coexistence of the gut flora. So if we have got feeds that are having contamination of enterobacteria, salmonella and other enterobacteria, then we are disrupting that gut because introducing other people that will outnumber the other beneficial microbes there. If we are giving, is that clear? Or you could see this water here. Can you see this water which is bottled? Can you see this bottle? Sorry. How does this water look like? How does it look like?
More like soup.
It looks like soup. Ria is saying it looks like soup.
But not very tasty.
But not very tasty, but it looks like soup. What do you think could be existing inside that water? Sorry? Somebody said something behind there. That is not a... Yeah, John?
A lot of that.
A lot of that. But there could be some unseen people also inside there. That could be inside there that we are not seeing, isn't it? Because in a dirty place you can get snakes. So there could be other people inside there you not see. We'll talk about it later. But those are the sources of ways of introducing disruptors into the gut of the bird. So as manufacturers, we have got a portion here to deal with, the part of the feeds. But once you manufacture the feeds and taken to the farm, do you really manage how they feed them? I was in Rwanda the other week and I got out, there were 5 houses. I went to the first, second, third, got to the fourth one. I was not interested in going to the 5th one. Because what I saw in the other 3 was enough to show me the picture in the other houses. The feeders, the birds were playing in the feeders. They were shitting in the feeders. Who eats their shits? Who eats their shits? They were sleeping on the feed, shitting there, and they're eating on it. The feeders were actually stuck on the ground. The mud was around the feeders, and all the mud was spilling back into the feeders. So what do you expect there? We'll talk about it. The other thing that happens is that introduces these disruptors is antimicrobials. Antimicrobials, either used as growth promoters, antibiotic growth promoters for anaphylaxis or prophylaxis. That's written twice, but one is supposed to be prophylaxis. Those who are here, who are veterinarians and also paravets, we are culprits in this because we allow the sales all of antibiotics without prescription. And they just use antibiotics anyhow. And also we put antibiotics into our feeds for growth promotion. What happens? I will mention this for those I've spoken to for some time, that it's projected by the World Health Organization that in 2050, there will be a very high resistance. Before I get to the disruption, there will be a great high resistance to antimicrobials. That my granddaughter or son will go to hospital, and the disease will be diagnosed, but they'll not be able to treat it because the scientists are not inventing any new molecule to treat any disease. And because the ones that are there, we have misused them until a resistance has developed. That's World Health Organization's projections. Apart from that, when we use the antibiotics in a manner that is not responsible, we interfere with the normal flora in the GIT, and the utilization of the feed is not going to be well. And what happens? The performance and productivity will not be perfect, and a war comes between the feed manufacturer and the farmer. Because with them, they don't look at the feed. The veterinarian who came and messed with them, they look at John who supplied the feeds. Tell them your feed is not working. But they're not pointing at themselves this way. The other fingers are pointing at them, but they're pointing at you. Now, what else? Mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are other disruptors that come and disrupt that coexistence. Because one, they lower the immunity, like Dawn and Zia, they lower the immunity of the birds. And also, they destroy the gut wall. The way I'll show you some video to show you that. They destroy the gut wall, and therefore they open the way for any microbes to get past the barrier into the blood stream and go damage the organs and cause diseases. And a gut wall which is damaged cannot absorb nutrients, cannot carry out the digestion. The other thing is stress. Stress due to poor management, overstocking, then putting a high stocking density, stress from the environment like heat stress or even cold. We are from Mount Kenya and Nakuru, and some farmers were telling us, now the weather is very cold. How do we change the feeds to adapt to that weather? You don't change the feed to adapt to the weather. You manage your farm well to adapt to the weather, isn't it? So wewe unavanga jacket saa zile kuna baridi. Mbona kuko valisho jacket? Keep them warm. Keep the house warm. Because you will not change the diet all the time. Come to John, tell him, John, change the diet. It is now cold in my place. Doctor, change the diet. It's now very cold. It is a management issue. It's not a nutritional issue. It's a management issue. So those are disruptors that disrupt that coexistence that I've mentioned in the gut. Or the other one, sorry. The other one is the feed and the diet. The form of the feed. Feed composition, the texture and the form. The ingredient quality and management of feeding. So, what is in the feed which is fed? Should also be very important. But the more important one also to be added is how that nutrition is provided. In what form are you providing it? Is it giving a comfort to the GIT, or it is going to erode, affect that GIT, the form that we're giving it in? Is it too coarse? Is it too fine that it passes through the gut so quickly that does not give the gizzard something to do and mix it and release more of the enzymes? So the form is very important for the health of the gut. And all this lead to poor gut health. All these disruptions lead to poor. So you forget everything, remember, poor gut health is the result of disruption of the gut. Now, what is the outcome? As I mentioned, is poor gut health. And when the poor gut health occurs, then we shall have incomplete what? Nutrient digestion. We call it indigestion. And what will happen when digestion occurs? Just to summarize and mention some, it's one of them is an example is the feed particles start passing out in the feces. So when you go and look at the farm, I think we will also one day come and train about management, because I think we dwell so much on feed and health today. We shall talk about management, because when you go to a farm as a manufacturer and you visit the farm you supply, you don't just rush and call for the order. You need just to walk in the farm, how they're doing the houses, and you start seeing droppings with some kind of remains or particles of feed, then it signals something in your mind. So you look for it either back in your factory or look at it at the farm management level. That is a sign of ill digestion. And what you see? Particles of feed in the droppings. That is what the farmers paid for. the bird is passing it out. But the feed miller was paid, he's happy, he's back. You got back the money in the pocket, isn't it? So whether this working is not concerned. Then malabsorption, digestion, malabsorption. That means the nutrients which have been opened from the raw materials and broken are not absorbed because the borders, the villi that are supposed to absorb them have been destroyed or covered by the mucus because of the activity of the microbes. Or the toxins have cut off the brushes and therefore they cannot absorb the nutrients. And what happens with that? Nutrients pass to the lower part of the GIT. These are now nutrients I'm talking about. This other one was particles of feed. Now when these nutrients are passed to the lower part of the GIT, which I mentioned that has got a population of microbes, what will happen to them? Lisha. They get food and they multiply. Wanashiba vile tumeshiba hivi, and then wanaanza nini? Kumultiply. Isn't it? And when they multiply, kitu watafanya, they proliferate and they cause what we call dysbacteriosis. When they climb up, they colonize the small intestines and upwards, and then you start seeing wet litter. And sometimes you see droppings that birds are walking like that. They're dropping wet litter, and sometimes see foamy, yellowish droppings because also E. coli has invaded it. And the opportunist has come in. Or you will see there will be mortality because of the infection, bacteria that are building up in the GIT. The third thing that the outcome is impaired health. And when the birds have got impaired health, there will be high mortality, there will be high morbidity, that high disease incidences, and high death rates. Now, all this end up in a suboptimal performance because they lead up to a low average daily gain in terms of both young birds for layers and also broiler and pigs, a high feed conversion ratio, low laying percentage, high cost of production, and what you can mention as negative in poultry and also general pig and even pig production. Now, what is the nutrition gut health program? Well, before I turn to that one, any question after that?